Okay, so we are going to start reassembly now. We're going to start reassembly. And so there's a couple little things that we need to do. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some of our engine lube and we're going to take just a little bit on our finger, not a whole lot. Okay, see, I don't have a whole lot there. And we're going to put it on the walls, on the cylinder walls in our engine block. Just a little bit there, just enough to create some lubrication. And then we're going to get this out of our way because that's pretty much all we're going to need. Then we're going to take our piston assembly. And when you take your piston apart, you will notice that there is a pin. There's a little pin mark right here on this one side. That pin mark is important, okay? The reason it's important is that the opening of your rings must face that mark. So that the opening of your rings must be right in the center. And I'm trying to hold it up as close to the camera as I can. Okay. The opening of your rings must be right in the center of that pin, right in the center of that pin. Otherwise, when you go to insert your piston into your cylinder, you will bust a ring. You will bust a ring. So make sure that the opening of your rings are centered right on that mark, that pin right there. Right? Another thing to look at is once you insert it, it's just a matter when you insert it. Okay, I'm going to double check and make sure that I'm right where I need to be. And it's just a matter of setting it in because everything is tapered. And we can just hold the piston and just set it in. Now, once we get it set in, this will actually sit down either way, but it's important that we get the flywheel on the right side and we get the clutch shaft on the correct side. Well, Mr. Clark, that's been 24 hours. I've slept since then, and I really didn't take good notes because I didn't think it was important. Well, let me help you. Let me show you a little trick. What connects to the flywheel? There's a part that we took off of the flywheel that is important. And it was also on the four-stroke. There was a part that we took off on the that works in conjunction with the flywheel and the magnet that's on the flywheel. You remember that part? If you said the magneto, then you're correct. And so the magneto works in conjunction with the flywheel. And if you look right here, there are two bolt holes that the magneto connects to. So I'm going to rotate this around so that my flywheel is on the same side as the two bolt holes. And then just go ahead and set it down. Now, also you see right here, I've got a couple of seals. And if you look real close on the bottom right here, there's a couple of grooves that these seals just set down into. So I'm going to rotate them in and make sure, and you've got to make sure that those seals set down nice and neat right inside of those grooves. So those seals, they've got a little lip on them. They've got to sit right down inside those grooves, just like so. Once I've done that, I'm going to take the bottom of my engine. I'm going to take my gasket sealant that we use with the other engines. Okay. And I don't need a whole lot. I can take just a little bit on my finger again and just a little bit along here and a little bit along here, just a little bit more. Again, you see I'm not using a whole lot, just enough to kind of put just a little bit. Again, these things do not create a whole lot of pressure. Okay. And you saw where I went. I went along the top here, nothing here. The seals is what seals this up, right? And now I'm going to set this on top. And start running my bolts in. We are on the assembly side now. And we're going to make sure that we run the same bolts in that we took out. And again, I'm using the power tool because I know you don't want to sit here and listen to me for you don't want to sit here and watch me for an hour and a half put this thing together. And then we'll check it just to make sure that it's snug. And with this, we want to 4-point it. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4. We just want to star it, make sure that it snugs up evenly. And we're done with our gasket maker as well. So I'm going to get this out of the way and get that out of the way as well. Okay. Now I'm going to bring my case back out. And hopefully she'll set back in there nice and level the way she's supposed to. There we go. Now, this is the tricky part. This is the tricky part. Okay, we talked about this in the lab, but there's this little nipple right here has got to match up with this hole on the engine. Has got to match up with this hole on the engine. We do not have a pump in our carburetor. We have a pump diaphragm that gets the suction from the piston inside the engine. And so if these 2 points do not line up, you're not going to create a vacuum inside your carburetor to pick up fuel. All right, so it's important that as we are lining these points up, okay, that they must line up together. So we're going to hook them together. We're going to hook the bottom up, okay, and we're going to slide it right in right here as we start, and then just kind of push it down, and then slide the seal over it as it kind of comes down and just kind of pops in. And this is probably one of the trickier parts of and there it goes. Okay, and that's probably one of the trickiest parts of getting the engine together, is getting that to mash up and getting everything getting everything to mash back up the way that it's supposed to. Okay, once we've done that, we can start putting our bolts back in. Okay, and we don't want to run these bolts down too tight. Just snug enough to hold everything. And again, I'm going to check them again with the hand tool just to make sure that they're snug. Okay, then I'm going to flip it over. And I like to 4-spot it, what I call star it. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, just like I'm tightening up a tire. Just like I'm tightening up a tire. And then again, I'm check it just to make sure it's good and tight. Yeah, it's got some good torque on this little DeWalt tool. And very good. Very, very good. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set my carburetor in place. It's important that I remember which hoses go where, and it's also important that I remember how the carburetor goes into the engine. Okay. All right. So the hose that's in front goes to the fuel. So it's going to supply fuel to the front line. This is my primer, and it simply supplies air. Again, that air helps create the vacuum. It helps create the pressure for the pump diaphragm that's in here. So it's going to go to this little one right here. So I'll just put him in place, and they just slide right on. So we'll push him on, and hopefully you didn't tear your hoses up too bad whenever you slip them off. And we'll push them on as such. And there's a little notch in here that hose goes through, a little notch in the bottom. Okay. And then I'm going to take my air filter part that my carburetor goes to, my carburetor linkage or part. Okay. And run my bolts through it. Now, before I get too carried away with all of this, I'm going to set this in here. I'm going to take my linkage. And I'm going to put it in place and go ahead and snap it in. Now, it's important to remember which one goes where. This is my choke. This is my throttle. Which way did it go whenever we took it apart? Okay, I'm going to hook mine back up, and I'm not going to tell you how it hooks up. And I'm going to see just how well you remember how yours came apart. Okay, so it's part of paying attention and part of remembering how things go. Remember the front part of the engine. The front part of the carburetor controls the choke. The back part of the carburetor controls the throttle, controls the fuel. Right? So once I have those in place, I'm going to go ahead and set my grommet in place for my choke. This is something that people tend to mess up on. Make sure you put this grommet in the correct way. It just slides down in there as such. Okay. All right. And then we're going to start bolting. Where do my bolt holes go? There they are. I'm going to set this. And it's a little snug. There it goes. But it'll drop down in there. Once you get all the wires and everything out of the way, it'll just drop right down. There it goes. And this one I want to be careful on because I want to be able to feel as it snugs up. There it goes. This one, these are all plastic parts, so I want to be very, very careful not to bust any of them or strip any of them out. And again, you see how tight I'm getting that? I'm just barely turning it. I'm not cranking on it very much at all. And then we're going to put this one up on top. Okay, again, make sure that my linkage is hooked up properly. Snap it in place. Choke. Throttle. Excellent. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Now we're going to set the coil on, and I've got a special tool. Let's set the coil in first, and then I'm going to show you a special tool for adjusting the gap on the coil. Okay. So I'm trying to work on this backwards. So we'll go ahead and put the spark plug wire on. Don't forget we have these little plastic spacers that go behind. And we also have this guy that goes on top here, okay? And so I'm going to run him through. I keep saying okay all the time. I apologize. It's a terrible habit, and it's a bad speaking habit. I do apologize. I'll try not to say it so much, okay? And so we'll put him up there. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to run this guy in. But I'm not going to tighten him down quite all the way. I'm going to leave him about right like so. And I should have ran my spacer, I kind of messed up because I didn't leave me any room for, there we go. I think I can do it. I should have put this one in and put my spacer in. Okay, so I have this high-tech tool for spacing gap on for spacing the gap on chainsaws. It is a specialty tool, and it can only be found in certain places. Um, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how this is done. I'm going to show you this specialty tool, and you can find them if you look real closely. You can find these tools in some places, but you have to really pay attention. Okay, and here's the specialty tool. And so you just take this right here and you set it right here like so, and you bring it back over where the magnet is. Come on the magnet. Yeah, the business card, right? That will pretty much set the space for your coil. Now I'm going to go ahead and set the exhaust back in place. Back in the day, back when Tiger smoked, we would use business cards to set the timing or set the gap on I'm drawing a blank right now on the coil. So wrong one. Where's it at? There it is. Nope, that's not the right one. Is this the right one? And here we go. We're going to tighten these up. And again, these don't have to be really tight. Just snug. And you'll notice that it says up. Yes, they can be mounted upside down. So they're not supposed to be, but people have mounted them upside down. Please do not mount them upside down. And just snug is all that we need them. All right, so we've got everything done up to here. Now we're going to start putting putting our clutch back together. First goes in our oiler, and this goes, again, these are reverse threads, so we've got to keep that in mind. Okay. Then after that goes the washer. Okay. And we've got to remember that the plate goes with the dimple up. The dimple up, right? There's a dimple on here. We've got to remember that dimple goes up. Okay. So the flat side, like so. And then we're going to take our clutch plate and spin it in. Now, I'm not going to get too crazy on this because, again, these are reverse threads. So as they tighten up, as they spin, they will tighten up. So I'm not going to get too insanely crazy on it. I'm just going to run it by hand. That's about all the tighter I'm going to put it. And then after my clutch plate goes my needle bearing. Did that go in it? No, that goes down. Then goes my cover. Then goes my plate with the dimple side down, So I'm going to put this on with the dimple side down, and then I'm going to take my clip, my E-clip. I'm going to find that notch right on there, and please don't stab yourself. There's a couple of ways to do this. Probably the easiest way is to grab a pair of needle nose pliers or a pair of slip joint pliers, catch it on the end. Catch it on the end as such, and just you want to keep it straight. You want to keep it level, and just pop it back in place as such. Boom, bang, pow. There it is. There it is. Okay, and we're pretty much through with here. You can go ahead and take the cover if you want. Go ahead and take the cover, and let's go ahead and set the cover on here. All right, let's just go ahead and take the cover and set the cover on here. Again, I don't want to get too crazy with this. These are 1/2 inch, I think. I do believe. We'll just run them down snug. I don't think anything else is going to get in my way, but we'll make sure. We'll make sure. See, I got my notes in the way over here, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. I'm getting too far off the screen. Let's get back to the center of the screen here. All right, we're kicking right along, ladies and gentlemen. We are kicking right along. Kicking right along. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to put our handle, our throttle handle back on. Okay. And it's going to snap in here, and then there's a couple of bolts that will hold it in place. So we'll snap it. We'll slide it in here, slide it in the back, pop it in place, and then I'm going to take my short bolt and pop it in here to hold it. Let me take this one to make sure it's getting started. This is plastic, so we want to make sure that we're getting everything started straight and correctly, so that it doesn't cross up on us and we wind up ruining some threads or something like that. Yep, okay, it's going right. Beautiful. And then we want to remember our spring that goes on the bottom here. All right. And it's important that we not forget our spring. Okay. And the spring goes in. Right like so. Right like so. Spring goes in right like so, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. I apologize. Sometimes the camera doesn't always give the bestest of views. The best. We are on the downhill side, ladies and gentlemen. We've only got a couple more things left to assemble on this, and we have her completely put together. Okay. So now we're going to put our cover back on. So we're going to take and slide this piece back on and slide it up here and snap it back in place. And once we do this, we're going to follow the path of the wires that are here. Follow this path. And snap them back into place. And we want to get as much of the leftover wire as possible inside the body here. Okay. All right. And then we're going to come down with this one, and it goes right on top. And it's going to snap right inside the little groove there, right behind the little keeper. And it's got a little groove right there that's going to keep it. Okay. Once you've got that set in place, you can go ahead and tighten this down, or you can actually drop this out of the way a little bit if you need to. And sometimes these wires just don't like to stay where they're supposed to. And you just got to kind of set them in there. And be careful not to break the wires in any way, though. Okay, once we have that in place, then we can go ahead and set our pull start in place. And we are almost done, ladies and gentlemen. A couple more things left to put on, and you don't have to listen to Mr. Clark for too many more days. got one more down here. And let's double check them. Sometimes with the power tools, they want to jump on you. There it goes. And we'll double check this one. Throttle handle. We're going to push this down. Push this down. This comes over here like so. And it just pops into place. Handle. Okay. Hopefully you did not remove the spring. Hopefully you left the spring in the handle. If not, you're in trouble. So the handle goes over the top and underneath the bottom as such. Okay. And so you've got 4 short screws that go in here. There it goes, it caught. Once it catches, I'm just going to and then one inside the spring. Come on, get in there. This is a tricky one because he doesn't like to go where he's supposed to. So you just got to sometimes let gravity work with you. And there he goes. Then we've got 2 long ones that go in the bottom here. Air filter, slides back in, pop it in, pop, cover, ladies and gentlemen. Should pop down. Come on, pop down in there. Pop down in there. And now, ladies and gentlemen, now for the moment of truth. Of course, I have no oil, no water. It should start. Should I put oil and water in it, ladies and gentlemen? And yours will have oil, obviously not water, but oil and fuel. And so we will see if yours will start. Okay? So there we have a full tear down, a full reassembly. Please take notes. Please see me if you have any questions. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing to it. I will see you in the shop. I'm out.